السنوات الثلاث الماضية في اليمن.
Les efforts du centre du roi Salman pour l'aide humanitaire durant ces dernières 3 années.
وتحت شعار مؤتمر الإعلام الدولي وحقوق الإنسان باليمن.
Et sous le titre de la conférence مؤتمر الدولي
الإعلام الدولي وحقوق الإنسان.
Oui, pardon. La conférence des médias internationaux sur le Yémen.
سيتحدث معالي وزير حقوق الإنسان اليمني الأستاذ محمد عسكر.
Monsieur le ministre des droits humains, Monsieur Mohamed Askar, va parler aujourd'hui.
والدكتور عبد الله المعلم مدير المساعدات الصحية والبيئية في مركز الملك سلمان للإغاثة والأعمال الإنسانية.
Et docteur Mohamed Abdallah al-Muallim, chargé des questions sanitaires dans le centre du Malik Salman.
والصحفي السويسري وخبير الإعلام الدولي سيد فرانسوا
Francis Zimental, expert international.
واحد المدافعين المعروفين عن حقوق الإنسان.
Et défenseur des droits de l'homme.
والمطالبين أو المدافعين عن قضايا المشتغلين بقضايا المساواة ومكافحة العنصرية أيضا.
Et défenseur des droits humains et de l'égalité et de la paix dans le monde.
سيحاول المشاركون الكرام خلال هذه الجلسة والجلسة القادمة تقديم صورة للرأي العام وللإعلام الغربي عن حقيقة ما يدور في اليمن.
On va essayer de montrer une image de ce qui se passe pour adresser aux médias occidentaux.
سيرأس هذه الجلسة السيد فرانسوا.
Le modérateur sera Monsieur François.
Et
je lui passe la parole.
Thank you very much for this introduction. My main task now is to give the word to the very important person here speaking to you about peace in Yemen. The first to speak will be the Minister of Human Rights in Yemen. I had a wonderful time with him yesterday. We laughed a lot. We should not laugh because the Yemen situation is terrible, but human beings are laughing sometimes even in very hard times. And I give the word to my friend, the Minister.
Thank you, Francois. And thank you, Dr. Abdullah al-Muallim. And thank you for all you are here today with us, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, my lecture today is about human rights situation in Yemen for a period between 21 September 2014 and 1 September 2018.
François. François.
The introduction, maybe most of people all over the world not understand what's the introduction of the situation in Yemen. We are in Yemen as the last period from 2011 until now, we get into 3 or 4 stations, if we can say that. The first one, Youth Revolution, February 2011. As you know, in the spring violations and revolutions in the Arab world, and you follow that 2011 in Egypt and Tunisia and Yemen, this revolution wanted to make a democracy in his countries. And Yemen was one of these countries. And in November 2011, after 10 months maybe, the initiative of the Gulf, as in Yemen has many neighbors, especially in the Gulf countries. The big one is the Saudi Arabia, and in the east is Oman. The Gulf Initiative wanted to make peace in Yemen and to prevent it to go Yemen into the collapse or huge collapse and war and internal war. After this initiative, which was signed by all the political parties in Yemen, Ali Abdullah Saleh as a president and the oppositions. And we started a very important process in Yemen, which we call the National Dialogue. The National Dialogue started from March 2013 until January 2014. And this National Dialogue, we established this process as a mean to achieve our goals for peace, for democracy, for development. And all parties in Yemen, social and political parties, participated in this dialogue. And we got an outcomes, and we drafted them as a constitutional draft. At the end of this process, we want to transfer these outcomes from papers, from agreements to constitutional statements. The Houthi coup was begun in September 2014. And from this coup, militia of Al-Houthi took the weapons and used the weapons to occupy all the institutions in Sana'a, in the capital of Yemen, and took the employees and threw them out of the doors of these institutions, especially the governmental institutions. All the weapons of our army, our camps, they are took them to the mountains and to the graves. And when we talked about the situation, you listen about the humanitarian crisis in Yemen. Actually, before 2014, we have a working before 2014, actually, we have a humanitarian crisis. This is the dialogue, you see, and sorry, in order to, yes. And this is the situation in Yemen now. Children, girls, and boys are the victims of this humanitarian crisis, of this war, which started from September 2000. Al-Houthi and against the legitimate government, and they occupy all our governmental institutions. This is the humanitarian context. which we would like to know. And the victims of this situation from September 2014 until September 2018, we have more than 14,220 people were killed. 1,500 were children and 865 were women. We have 31,127 people were injured. This is a big war now we are suffering from, and the people were injured. The children were 4,080 children were injured until now, and women 4,253 women. 21,076 people were abducted by Houthis, and 3,486 still under arrest. 2,875 detainees have been tortured during the detention, which caused the death of 86 of them. I personally interviewed some of these people with whom they getting out from the detentions. Some of them can't walk. Before they were young men, but now they can't walk totally. And some of them were killed. We have 627 violations against media professionals and institutions were recorded. Examples of these violations are many, like the killing of 30 journalists, and most of you are journalists and media workers and media professionals. Also, many journalists have been threatened. You know, if you want to still stay in Yemen, you will be you will get many of torture, many of arrested, and some of the journalists, or most of them, getting out from the country. The newspaper closed. More than 80% of our newspaper are closed now, and 17 of the journalists are still under arrested and have been subject to unfair trials. Before yesterday, they started to send more than 7 journalists to the court, and they apply unfair procedures for the journalists. That is what happened yesterday. Hodeidah port as a starting point to the peace process. Most of you listen about Hodeidah port. Hodeidah port is one of 10 ports in the Yemen country, and this is the one which is located in the Red Sea. And more, as the UN record said, more than 70% of our humanitarian aids come access from this port. But actually, we have many ports, and the question why most of the humanitarian aids access to Yemen by this point only. We will leave this in the discussion when we discuss the situation. And Al-Hodeidah now, before we get into the chances, Al-Hodeidah now suffering from displaced people. We record more than 2,000 families now displaced because the military actions there, and the militia of Al-Houthi now they are disappear after the people, the civilians, and this is a humanitarian crime, as you know, and the UN blamed them many times, more than 3 times. The High Commissioner of Human Rights made statements about this crime. They now still fighting from the civilian areas, from the civilian aware, and they are afraid to for the civilians. And the Yemeni government and the coalition apply sharp procedures to prevent it as we can, the civilians and girls and boys. Before 3 weeks, we have 2 crimes. One of these crimes happened in the hospital there, which is called Al-Thawra Hospital in Al-Hudaydah, and the other crime was happened in the fish market. And when we investigated these attacks done by military homeland, we found that the militia bombed and sent attacks from the streets, and we documented this attacks, and the UN, when they are in the first, they blamed the coalition and government and made a statement for that. After that, they withdrew their statement, and it was clear that the militia of Al-Houthi acted this crimes. At the last element of this lecture, Yemen lost chances to make peace. As a government, we are looking for peace everywhere and every time. Every chance for peace we are going to. Even we think that the other side don't want to make peace. Before 5 days, I think, we have talks in Geneva and invited by the UN envoy, Mr. Martin Griffith, and our delegation was there in the same time, in the time, in the date we are agreed with the UN. But the other side, and this talks is arranged by the UN more than 6 months, and this is the first round of peace, which are moderated by the new UN envoy, Mr. Martin Griffith. And although all these victims, all this they refused to go at the last minute. In the last minute, they refused to go and make some of the reasons, and some unacceptable reasons. And our delegation stayed there more than 3 days. And this is not the first one. In Geneva, our talks in 16th June 2015, and they failed this round. In Vienna, December 2015, in Kuwait, the talks and negotiations directly in April 2015 continue these talks more than many months, maybe 3 or 4 months. In Geneva 3, which happened on 6th September 2015, what I told you that they are failed these talks. The conclusion, we call all the international community And our recommendation to all parties to the conflict in Yemen to abide by the principle of international humanitarian all violations of human rights from all parties and respect the international humanitarian law. Allow all humanitarian aid to access to Yemen without any problems. And we recommended to that the only road to make peace in Yemen is to apply the international resolutions, especially resolution of 2216. We hope that may the peace come to us early as it possible, and we are looking for this peace, and we will still looking for this peace anywhere or anytime. Thank you so much.
François?
Thank you very much, Minister, for your speech. Looking for peace. It's a continuous progress. It's not easy. We need time. We need wisdom. And I give the word now to the person which is with a kefir on the program. It's easy to recognize him. Now he has no kefir. In a way, it's a pity because he was nice with the kefir. And I'm happy to give the word to Dr. Abdullah Salah. Thank you, Doctor. Use this computer. We have again technical problems. Maybe we should use the other computer.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Excellency the Minister. Thank you, Rashid. I'd like just to start talking about the humanitarian situation in Yemen by telling that Yemen is actually multiple disasters actually. In food security, they have the risk of famine, they have the risk of disease outbreaks, and as per OCHA, it is one of the largest humanitarian crises all over the world. As we are talking now, there are almost 50 conflicts all over the world. The Yemen conflict is recognized to be the worst or the largest one all over the world concerning humanitarian issue. Just to have an overview about Yemen, what was Yemen before this conflict? How it was the humanitarian situation okay in Yemen before the conflict which started in 2014, or it was the same, or it has been deranged or become more worse?
So as you can see here, Yemen before this conflict was a very poor country. Poverty and lack of feasible livelihood were endemic in Yemen, and Yemen were known to be the poorest country in the Middle East, as 54% of the population were under the poverty line. And the gross domestic per capita is only $1,209, which is the minimum of the whole nearby countries and in the Middle East. In 2014, as per the World Food Programme, 40% of the Yemenis population were food insecure, and like 45% of the children under 5 were stunted. Also, there was a weak infrastructure and instability in protection, violations of all rights of human rights, and all form of abuse and exploitation were there prior to this conflict, and the displacement and lack of access to services and livelihood were there actually. As per OCHA 2018, the population of Yemen are 29.3 million, out of them 22.2 are in need of humanitarian or some sort of humanitarian assistance. Out of these 22, 11.3 are really in need of acute humanitarian assistance. And out of them, 3.44 millions were internally displaced. Just to go over an overview about the types of violations committed in Yemen. Chilling and sniper attacks is one of the violations because it does not differentiate between military and civilians. And this results usually in civilian casualties as well as damage to infrastructures. In fact, most of these chilling and sniper attacks are coming from Houthi-occupied territories, and mainly in Ta'z city, which is a 4 million population city. It comes from highlands in this city by shelling shells, rockets, small arms, as well as mortars directly to civilian population, where they were in their homes, outside their homes, fetching for water, purchasing food, or even seeking the medical assistance or medical help. We have Saudi Arabia, Yemeni refugees, we call them visitors, and they come because of this conflict and because of the deliberate attacks to civilians. So we have more than 500 Yemeni refugees in Saudi Arabia. We are the second largest number of immigrants in Saudi Arabia, and a total of 1 million, half of them are Yemenis in Saudi Arabia. And by this week, 5.2% of Saudi nationals are refugees, and 37% of the total population of Saudi Arabia are international migrants. Another form of violation, or let us talk about the King Salman Humanitarian Aid and Relief Center effort to support humanitarian rights in Yemen. So because of these casualties coming from killing and sniper attacks or from other attacks, we spent like 20 million to sign contracts with private hospitals in Yemen to treat whatever casualty come to the emergency, whether they are Houthis, they are Salafists, they are from the coalition, they are from legitimate government. As they are in Yemen, they should be and spend more than $126 million for supporting the governmental hospitals with pharmaceuticals, medicines, as well as medical equipment, and more than 100 million to treat Yemeni wounded and injured victims in Yemen itself, inside Saudi Arabia, and outside, like in Jordan, India, as well as Sudan. Here is another form of violation to human rights in Yemen. It is the access restriction and confiscations. We have our convoys from King Salman Humanitarian Aid and Relief Center going to Yemen. They have been looted and confiscated by Houthi troops at checkpoints. So we have like 65 aid ships that has been looted, 124 relief convoys that has been confiscated, and 628 semi-trucks, they have been attacked. Some of them has been attacked by fire directly. And we have videos in our center documented that. And this results actually attacking and causing restriction to the access and confiscating and looting these food baskets has caused a lot of food insecurity, malnutrition, and lack of shelter. Here is a form of another aggression by Houthi militias in their occupied territories by aggressing and violating even against United Nations agencies, and that include raiding the food security. King Salman Center identifies people with special needs and food baskets are being delivered directly according to their humanitarian need, and we targeted four categories like women, children, and orphans. And during 2016 to 17, the center dealt with malnutrition with more than 3 million beneficiaries, and we are signing nowadays contracts, one with $5.2 million with the World Food Program to improve the situation of malnutrition in Yemen, and another contract with $7 million with the UNICEF to improve the nutrition status of Yemen. As you know that there are, according to OCHA, more than 400,000 children in acute severe malnutrition. Here is one of our unique shelter program in Djibouti. We did in the center to accommodate the Yemeni refugees in Djibouti. This is a special type of accommodation. This program or this project is depending totally on solar system to provide electricity and water to the refugees. Here is a nutrition project, and this is one of our famous ships that has reached Yemen and delivered its shipment to the poor people of Yemen just to improve the security of food and food security in that state. Here is another violations we are facing, especially in Saudi Arabia, that Scud missiles firing from the Yemen. As you can see in your right-hand side, this is the logo of the Houthis. They are firing a Scud missile that they have brought from Iran. As you know, militias are backed by Iran, and they are supplying them with these types of Scud missiles. They are targeting deliberately the civilian areas in Saudi Arabia. As you can see to your left-hand side in the middle, these are schools in Saudi Arabia that have been affected by firing of such missiles. Here also is the destruction of the school by the Houthi missiles launched at Saudi Arabia. As a result of that, we have more than 189 actually Scud missiles that has been fired to Saudi Arabia, and more than 66,000 shells and rockets that has been fired and launched towards Saudi Arabia. And nobody knows that we have in Saudi Arabia internally displaced Saudis from the borders because of such attacks, and there are civilians injured more than 900 and civilian deaths more than 112, as well as damaged schools, hospitals, and mosques. Here is another violation we are facing and trying to help Yemenis. This is the implanting of land and sea mines or naval mines. The Houthis, they use small children, young children, in violation to the international law, in violation to the Rome Statute of International Human or International International Court, Criminal Court, and in violation to Geneva Convention, especially the first protocol, as well as the International Labour Office Organization. So they are using these children to implant the mines in Yemen, whether they are land mines or sea mines. As their statistics, according to reports, we have more than 1 million land mines that has been implanted in Yemeni land, and it has caused a lot of tragedy, a lot of cases and victims. Here is the tragedy. As you can see, people are losing their limbs because of these mines. Most of these people are civilians. They are farmers, and they are working in the desert, fetching water, and the end result, they got explosion because of these land mines. Here, what we did for such victims, we started our artificial limb center in Ma'rib, that is a legitimate government territory, which is nearby Saudi Arabia. We made this center to help these amputated people. So we spent like $663,000 initially and $426,000 to make this center, to manufacture, install, and rehabilitate the injured patients, and to train the Yemeni, to build the capacity of Yemeni people to make the prosthesis themselves. So a total of $11.11 million. We have another contract with the ICRC in Yemen to help and support the artificial limb center in Yemen. And nowadays we are opening soon another artificial limb center in Ali. Here is the picture of our amputee center in Ma'rib that's helping the people to put the prosthesis on. Here is a very innocent two children. On your left hand side, this is Ala. She was playing in her backyard at home, and suddenly a bomb blasted from outside, from Houthi-occupied territories, that has affected her. Unfortunately, she did not die because she was living nearby Taura hospital in Yemen, and she ended up with amputated left limb. And the other innocent guy is Yunus, on your left-hand side, right-hand side. He unfortunately lost 3 limbs, 2 lower limbs and 1 upper limb, which is a tragedy actually. And from our experience as doctors, we have the landmine can explode in 3 ways. One is that it can explode because you put your foot on this landmine and it does explode. And that time, if you don't have medical assistance or help, if you are in the desert, you will die because of bleeding. But if you have the chance to live, most of the time you will get your limb amputated, either 1 or 2. The other scenario is that once you have the explosions happen in front of you, and that time you will have the scattered minimal or moderate injuries all over your body, but you may get blind because some of the landmines explode in your eyes. The third scenario, this is what happening in Yemen, unfortunately, and this is happening with Yunus to your right-hand side. They made these landmines very attractive to children with a very attractive color. It is like a children's toys. So the child will get this toy, he try to play, then it explodes. And that is the mystery actually, and that is the tragedy. Like what happened with Yunus, he lost 2 lower limbs and 2 upper limbs. These children we bring to Ma'rib, which is nearby Saudi Arabia, legitimate government area, and then we transfer to higher center in Saudi Arabia. The Dua to your left-hand side, our Ala, her neighbor actually, she already has her prosthesis and she is nowadays back to Yemen, she is walking. But these children, from medical point of view, they need a special different type of prosthesis because as the child grows, the limb has to grow. So you have to need a special, expensive type of prosthesis that can be done only in higher centers. Also, Yunus with his mother, he's now in Jeddah for treatment and for prosthesis. But to solve this problem as a whole, we are not just waiting for victims to come to us and make prosthesis for them. We launched a very noble program in Saudi Arabia, costing $40 million just to eradicate and rapidly clearing the landmines and explosive remnants of the war from the This project, as I mentioned, is a $40 million project that has started 2 months ago, with the aim also of capacity building of Yemeni people to eradicate and clear these mines from the whole Yemeni territory or whole Yemeni land. Here's another violation: is Taz siege. Taz is a big city of Yemen, and the Houthis are surrounding it in the highlands, launching missiles, small guns, small arms, rockets, mortars from there, attacking civilians, and they made a blockade, actually, a siege around Yemen around Taz for the last 2.5 years. And what we did in King Salman Humanitarian Aid and Relief Center is to drop from the sky the food and the food items to poor people living there. So we managed actually to save thousands of lives by so doing. But unfortunately, we could not, although we dropped the food and non-food items as well as medical supplies, but we could not drop the oxygen cylinders today. So a clear idea came that we should use animals. So in the back of these animals, through rough mountain roads, we managed to save thousands of lives by taking these oxygen cylinders to the hospitals inside TAS. And we managed to transfer more than 4,500 oxygen cylinders, and we saved lives. But we did not stop at this degree. We signed a contract with the WHO to provide oxygen generators to the TAS hospitals, and they already, fortunately, they are already fixed there. Oxygen generators means that generating oxygen from the ordinary air. There are already 11 oxygen generator machines has been fixed, and they are producing their own oxygen in case this siege becomes more tightened. People, they will not suffer and lose their lives because of the lack of oxygen. Here is another violation of freedom of expression, actually. And this includes intimidation, smear campaigns, solitary confinement for long periods in the jail, as well as repression and affected dignity as well. So some of them, they got handcuffed, some of them, they get electrocuted if they are caught by Houthi militias. On your left-hand side, this is a press release from the journalists there. They are asking for freedom of expression because they are lacking this, and they had just escaped from Houthi-occupied territories to legitimate government area, and they made this press. To the right-hand side, women are demonstrating and protesting against Houthi because he captured their children and enforced them in the battlefield. He made armed children in violation to all international humanitarian laws. Another form of violation is killing of political opponents. As you can see, one of the famous examples is killing of the former 33 years president of Yemen, Saleh, because he just came in a news media seeking peace with the coalition, and he made a press release about that. In the second or third day has been killed by Houthis, and they admit that actually. Here is another form of violation, is detention and torture, actually. This is a poor lab technician who was protesting against Houthis, has been captured and kept in the jail for 2 years. His name is Munir al-Shargi, and they throw him in the desert thinking that he has died. Fortunately, he found somebody who has helped him to come to the legitimate government, and he was given the medical treatment under supervision of Saudi doctors. Now he is in Ma'rib, his way to Jeddah, Saudi Arabia for a better treatment. As you can see, he has been exposed to direct acid to his body. He has been kept in solitary confinement. He was subjected to all forms of repression and degradation, maltreatment, as well as he was suspended upside down in some occasions. This guy is a French guy. His name is Marouk. He was being there in Houthi prison for more than 2 years, and this is him at his press conference telling about all the torture and the maltreatment he has been affected with in the Houthi areas. Apart from human beings, the effect is also touching the infrastructure of Yemen. There was crippled education system as well as crippled public health and wash programs. And this is very dangerous, actually. The crippled system has led to cholera. You must have heard about the cholera outbreak in Yemen, and dengue fever as well as diphtheria. So cholera response. I just tell you that cholera is endemic in Yemen. Endemic means it is there all the time. Since long time it's there. But it comes as epidemic, increasing the number of cases during the crisis time. The first epidemic in cholera was 2010, even before the current conflict, when there was a conflict between Saleh troops as well as Houthi that time. There was an outbreak which has stopped. The current outbreak just started October 2016. And fortunately, it stopped now. We are worrying about a third wave. Hopefully, it will not happen. And a total of 1 million people has been affected with more than 2,000 deaths, a case fatality rate of 0.21%. As you can see, from right to left, the cases are coming down and the epidemic is no longer there. Here is our contribution, King Salman Humanitarian Aid, that started with 8.2 million immediate support to provide WHO towards combating cholera in Yemen, followed by 1.2 share for medical supplies as well as drugs, and 7 million for the International Medical Corps to improve the WASH programs in Yemen, and eventually by a generous contribution to the whole pledge of cholera in Yemen, 66.7 million by the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, almost shared equally between WHO and UNICEF, 33, almost 33 million each. A total of 83 million to cholera, which has improved the situation dramatically. Here is our response to dengue fever. When started dengue fever there were 241 cases and deaths were 78, which is a great portion of that number of patients. Like case fatality rate was 0.34. We managed to get it to 0.08, and although the number of cases increased, but the death cases came down because of the efforts of King Salman Humanitarian Aid and Relief Center. It includes vector control, removal of epidemics foci, training, and health awareness, and that costed like $2 million. Here is our response to diphtheria. Diphtheria, more than 1,600 cases were reported of diphtheria, and we managed through vaccinations and different contracts with UNICEF, WHO, to improve the vaccination situation in all the essential vaccination like measles, mumps, rubella, or BCG, as well as diphtheria, pertussis, and tetanus, and hepatitis, costing the center more than $24 million. Here is our education campaign that started to provide education materials to Yemen. Other forms of violations are sexual violence, rape, compulsory marriage, child recruitment, Baha'is, targeting, and degrading. We have a very noble program in Saudi Arabia. We call it the program of conjoined twins. And Saudi Arabia is all over the world in the separation of the conjoined twins. We help Yemenis from Houthi aid for separation. And the first twins to be separated from Yemen were Abdullah and Abdul Aziz. They were separated in 15 June 2015, and they are from Houthi occupied territories. Followed by separation of Yemeni parasitic twin in Taz area, Ahmed, that has been separated in 13 January 2016, and another Yemeni parasitic twin in Sana'a, another Houthi occupied capital, separated on 8 August 2017. This is the joint incident assessment team that has been populated by the coalition that has to revise all the collateral damage, collateral incidents, and give report and recommendation about it. And recently, one of the attacks of the coalition on a bus of Houthis children, and it has been regarded by all countries, including USA, and has been accepted by the coalition as a mistake, and compensatory money has been given to the victims and their families, and the revision of the non-strike zones. We have like 65,000 non-strike zones in Yemen that are being taken care by the coalition. So in King Salman Humanitarian Aid, we are international, following the international humanitarian law. We are impartial, whether he's Houthi or not Houthi, Salafist, Islah, whatever. And Baha'is, we are treating as equal, as brothers. We are looking them, keeping in mind the international humanitarian law, being impartial. We are cooperating with international United Nations and regional NGOs. There are more than 80. We have launched so far more than 277 projects in Yemen, costing more than $1.6 billion up till now. And these are the sectors we are working. We are working in health, early recovery, food security, water sanitation, humanitarian emergency relief, telecommunication, nutrition, logistics, and education, as well as shelter and protection. Here is the Saudi Arabia total contribution in the last 3 years to Yemen. Believe it, it is more than $11.1 billion. This is what Saudi Arabia contributing to Yemen in the last 3 years. I have to repeat myself, 11.1 billion documented through the TS contribution from Saudi Arabia to Yemen. And that is divided as 1.6, as I have mentioned, total humanitarian aid and relief provided through the TS relief, and 1.1 aid provided to Yemenis inside Saudi Arabia, as well as 2.9 billion for development aid allocated to Yemen, and more than 2.2 is bilateral governmental assistance, and 3 million to the Yemeni Central Bank. Here's the humanitarian response plan as per OCHA 2018. The requested amount of money was $6 billion. Initially, the funded amount of money was 1.92 in 31 of August 2018, followed by 1.5 billion released by the coalition countries, and the last contribution of Saudi Arabia was $500 million, a share of comprehensive humanitarian plan to Yemen with the United Arab Emirates, and lastly, Kuwait has put 200 million to this pledged amount. Here is the official development assistance from the gross national income of Saudi Arabia. The targeted number for any country in the world by the United Nations is 0.7 out of the gross national income. Saudi Arabia proudly has reached 1.9%, which is almost triple the targeted amount by the United Nations as humanitarian aid. This includes not only Yemen, but all countries we are working in. It's showing our partners. They are international United Nations partners in Yemen and other countries. And here I'd like to say that we are hoping that an end will come, and will come to peace soon, to end this conflict. We believe that the end, and the only end to this conflict, is to come to a negotiation table. Unfortunately, the other party is not coming, as His Excellency mentioned a while ago. 5 days ago, there was a negotiation in Geneva to reach the peace, but they did not come from the Houthi side, unfortunately. And we have references, actually. There are 3 references to solve this problem. One is the international United Nations Resolution 2116. The other is the results and outcomes of the national dialogue. And the third is the GCC countries initiative, which has been held, I think, 2012, that has been formed. We hope that one day will come and peace will prevail and this conflict will end. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Doctor. You are a medical doctor and you know very well your subject. We say in Switzerland that peace has more value than all the gold of the world. And you can see that Saudi Arabia is helping a lot Yemen with billions of dollars, but this is not enough. We need more. And now I think it's the time for questions. If you want to raise questions in French or in English or in Arabic, we will have translators. Then the first question is there. And
Salam alaikum. Je suis Mikaïla Ngebla, donc journaliste tchadien. أنا اسمي مكايل نجيبلا صحفي من تشاد، أنا عايش في فرنسا، باجي سياسي. Alors, je vais parler en France. بالفرنساوي يبغى هو يترجم. شكون يترجم؟ باش بالعربي العربي très bien. L'arabe très bien.
France and
Alors, donc je vous remercie pour l'intervention du ministre Mohamed Askari ainsi que du docteur Abdallah.
أشكركم على هذه المداخلة السيد الوزير والسيد.
Alors donc je suis avec un très grand intérêt cette conférence.
لقد تابعتكم باهتمام كبير.
Parce que la situation au Yémen est une situation vue de Paris était préoccupante pour nous.
لأن الوضع هنا من باريس الوضع في اليمن يبدو مقلق جدا.
Je comprends aisément que la situation est très compliquée, situation humanitaire et question de droits de l'homme.
أفهم أن الوضع معقد جدا فيما يخص الوضع الإنساني وحقوق الإنسان.
Donc je m'inquiète, ma question s'adresse à Monsieur le ministre, je m'inquiète par rapport à la position de l'ONU sur cette affaire. Est-ce que l'ONU est du côté du gouvernement légal du Yémen ou bien quelle est la position de l'ONU sur cette question-là?
أتساءل حول موقف الأمم المتحدة. سؤالي مطروح للوزير، ما هو موقف الأمم المتحدة؟ هل هو من الطرف si c'est plutôt du côté
du gouvernement légitime.
هل هو يعني يميل إلى موقفكم موقف الشرعية أو موقف الحوثيين؟
Alors, la deuxième question s'adresse à M. le docteur Abdallah. La deuxième question s'adresse parce qu'il a présenté 122 partenaires impliqués au Yémen. Mais le problème, c'est que c'est des partenaires institutionnels, partenaires nationaux. Et aussi, j'ai vu le logo du Haut Commissariat pour le réfugié. Est-ce que ces partenaires jouent-ils un rôle sincère avec le Yémen et avec le centre Salman?
أنتم قدمتم شركاء يعني من مؤسسات ومن المفوضية العليا للشؤون اللاجئين. هل يلعبون دورا شفافا أو سنسار يعني حقيقي و يعني معكم؟
شكرا لك.
Okay, thank you for your question. It's very difficult question to say that about the UN. It's with the Yemeni side, the governmental side, or the militia side. As we know that principle that UN believed there is no name, no blame, and for that we understand why the UN didn't blame enough these militias, which refuse all the chances of peace. The last chance, which are failed by the Houthis, and all the world know that they didn't come to the talks, and we didn't hear from the UN any kind of blame, and we understand that, but we hope that the community makes strength to the UN in order to play a strength role in Yemen, especially in the humanitarian crisis and in the peace building and peace. We hope that the UN envoy achieve his goals to make peace in Yemen as soon as possible. Thank you.
My question, you asked about the international organization, are they playing a real role in the ground? My answer is yes. They are playing a great role in the ground, and we are very proud about their partnership. Because in the center, in King Salman Aid and Relief Center, we are just funders. We are just providing money to them. They are working the ground. We have partnership with all the United Nations, all of them and others like UNICEF, as well as with local organization and international like IMC and local non-governmental organization. We are working through them. We are proud of their partnership. We are funding their programs after being studied as if they are of great help to Yemenis. And once they are great help to Yemenis, we approve them and we fund and get the budget for that types of project. And without them, cholera campaign, cholera they would not have stopped. They are working now on the ground. We have problem of the offices. Most of their offices are in Sana'a. And Sana'a is a Houthi occupied previous legitimate government capital of Yemen. They are facing a lot of violations, as I mentioned in my presentation. Kidnapping, being kept in the prison, harassment, okay, maltreatment, and they are in the process of decentralizing these offices. We'd like them to decentralize these offices because some of the information coming from the Sana'a are biased because the Houthis are putting pressure on them. And the employees, you will find one supervisor from IOM, for example, or from WHO. All the other employees who are collecting the data and giving the information are Houthis. So they are biased towards their party and they are giving the wrong type of information, sometimes misleading us in choosing the correct program to improve the humanitarian situation in Yemen. So we asked more than one time for decentralization of the offices. Fortunately, they started in Aden now. We would like them to extend in Aden and Ma'rib because 80% of the Yemeni land is in the hand of legitimate government. This is the truth. 80% of Yemeni land is in the hand of the legitimate government. Why they should keep their central offices in Sana'a? If they want to keep it, well and good, but they have to start to put another offices and distribute it, decentralize it to all over Yemen. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, please.
سارة يوسف صحفية والمنتدى سعادة الوزير. كيف تنظر الحكومة اليمنية والتحالف العربي إلى تقرير طريق الخبراء الأمميين حول اليمن؟ Donc ma question est pour Monsieur le ministre. Comment considère le gouvernement yéméni et la coalition arabe le rapport des experts onusiens concernant le Yémen?
وما الذي ستقومون به في مواجهة التقرير وما تضمنه من اتهامات؟
Et qu'allez-vous faire par rapport à ce rapport et comment allez-vous répondre aux accusations contenues dans ce rapport?
Your Excellency.
Okay, thank you. Actually, you have a deep question. I can divide your question into answers. The first one, how we look to the reports which are written by the eminent experts which are named by the High Commissioner of Human Rights to examine the situation in Yemen about human rights. Actually, we think this report, and we say that this report is not neutrally, not put the truth as the truth. Is we thought that most information in this and crimes in this report are either not correct or they didn't give the crimes of the militias. okay, we understand that we have mistakes in the airstrikes. We recognize that every time. But the other side, what about the landmines crimes? What about the civilians who they are killed by using them by the militia of Al Houthi? So the first answer, we send our response of this report and documented by the UN Secretary in the Council of Human Rights in Geneva, and we have a response in 28 of this month for this report. At the other side, or this next answer about how can we trade? We will, this conference is one of our steps to clear the picture, what's happened of the situation in Yemen. We have a militia. It is the big reason of all the humanitarian crisis in Yemen. We can't separate the results from the introductions. We can't. The main reason in Yemen is the militia which occupied our institutions and made this coup upon the legitimate government. And if there is any violations, we are looking to this violation. If there are really violations, we will treat our institutions. We will recollect any of these violations in the all liberated areas. But we hope that in the future, when we blame some party or violating human rights, we should be in neutrally, in partial way, in order to get the truth. The truth we need it now, not anything else.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Something.
Can I add something, please, to the question? Yes. Concerning the report that comes from the expert, this group of experts has been mandated by the Human Rights Council to dissemination of the humanitarian situation in Yemen. And actually, the report is nothing more than that credibility, because the methods they use for more than one reason. The methods they used was not correct. They depends on information that came through all over the internet. They put internet website and they ask people to give submissions without any comments or proofs. So they took these information as solid information while they are really not. The other thing is that their standard of study is not correct. It depends on the standard, in brackets, as reasonable grounds to believe. This is not a standard to start with. This is not a standard. Reasonable grounds to believe is not a documented solid data. It depends on. The other thing is that they have been advised by the Yemeni government, even the Minister of Human Rights, to visit Taz. Taz is suffering a lot, and they did not visit Taz. Taz is having the tragic human situation. Not visit Taz. Even Yemen itself, they visited only 2 times, and they giving these reports. They are, if you look at the Houthi stories and look at the report, you will feel that it is a copy and paste of Houthi stories that came into their media. The other thing is that they are mentioning in the report that the situation in the land has not changed. And as I told you, the best of the human land is in the peace of the incumbent government nowadays. This also report did not talk about mines. Land mines is a tragedy in Yemen. They did not mention about it, either land mines or nickel mines. So they did not talk about that. even when they went to Aden, did not go to the districts to see what atrocities has been committed by Houthis when they were in Yemen. So we feel that this is a twisted type of report that should not be dependable on other points we have in mind that the group of experts, they extended beyond the amended purpose that has been defined by the Human Rights Council. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. We will have soon a coffee break, but do you have more questions, 1 or 2 or 3? Okay, coffee break. Thank you very much. Shukran jazilan.
Very good.